fans? Welcome back to Room 237, back with another review. Now, this is a movie that I was just scrolling through Hulu. I saw that they added some more things. This is not a first-time Hulu blind watch, which I've done several recently. This is a film from 2007 that I've actually seen a couple times. I don't own it. I rented it when it first came out on DVD back in 2007 or 2008 by the time the DVD came out. I don't remember. And then I saw it a few years later when I lived with a friend of mine whose girlfriend at the time had a bunch of horror movies from that period. And also recently I went through all the films I had from the height of the torture porn era. This came out during that time. 07 pretty much was kind of the peak of torture porn. This isn't quite a torture porn film. In fact, it's not very gory or bloody at all. There's very, very little. But it does have elements of torture in it. It does feature these serial killers who make torturous snuff films at a hotel. And this one couple happened to fall prey to them. It is the 07 film Vacancy. Now, like I said, I saw this when it first came out. My parents were always renting movies like every weekend. My mom was always getting whatever new release horror film she thought looked cool. I remember not liking it very much at the time, and I don't remember why. And then when I saw it a few years later, probably 2011 or 12, I still disliked it. I think I just found it boring, and I felt like it should have been bloodier. It should have been more like Saw or Hostel, I guess. But rewatching it now, I actually enjoyed this film. I mean, I don't think it's great or very, very good, but it's definitely entertaining. It's not really sort of the straightforward kind of slashery torture film. It definitely has more elements of a thriller. So much so that I wouldn't be surprised if a major influence on this film is Psycho. Not just because of the fact it takes place in this small motel, but even some of the score sounds a lot like Bernard Herrmann's score, and the opening credits with the score and just the style of the credits kind of reminds me of Psycho. And so this is another one of those films that I saw a couple times a decade or more ago, was not a fan of. But now I enjoyed the film itself, and there was more that I missed from back then that there's more things I pick up on now, especially like technical aspects. But this was directed by, and I hope I pronounced this right, Nimrod Antal. I hope that's not his first name, but he directed several episodes of Stranger Things. He directed the 2010 Predator movie. He directed the Metallica film Through the Never. It was written by Mark L. Smith and stars Kate Beckinsale, Luke Wilson, Frank Whaley, and Ethan Embry. Which Ethan Embry looked familiar. I'm not seeing anything. Oh, he played Rusty in Vegas Vacation. Okay. Horror movie wise, he was in that crappy movie They from 2002. Vacancy. He was in The Devil's Candy, which I haven't reviewed, but I do like that film. Music was done by Paul Haslinger, and it was put out by Screen Gems. It's only 85 minutes, but it goes at a great pace. I mean, it feels like it goes by like that. It was kind of a moderate hit. I mean, made for 19 million, made 35.3 million. I don't quite see the 19 million in the film. This definitely looks like a 2 to 5 a million kind of movie. Now, the cast, Kate Beckinsale is a good actress. I haven't seen her in too many things. Of course, I think she's most well known as the Is she the one from, yes, Underworld? I'm not a fan of those films, just like I'm not a fan of a Resident Evil. But I thought she did fine in this. Luke Wilson, I've never been a big fan of, and this does give a vibe like it's going to be a comedy. Like he does kind of feel out of place. I, almost as bad as say Vince Vaughn in Gus Van Sant's Psycho, but I think Luke Wilson does what he can. I wouldn't say he's. I would say the misplacement is so bad that it kills the movie. I would probably say he might be better at these kind of roles than his brother Owen Wilson, which I know Owen Wilson was in Anaconda, but it really was kind of hard just not to think about like the Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson type comedies. And Luke Wilson kind of reminds me of David Arquette. I would have almost rather David Arquette been the male lead in this, but I thought Luke Wilson was okay. The real acting gem in this is Frank Whaley. Now he played Robbie Krieger in the Val Kilmer Doris movie by Oliver Stone. He had a bit role in School of Rock. He had a bit role in season 1 of Gotham. He's been in quite a few things, and he looks and acts so much like a serial killer. Go back to my review of Rent-A-Pal, and I say how much that guy looks like a 70s serial killer. Like, perfect. Frank Whaley's a close second. I mean, he looks like Robert Hansen, if Robert Hansen had a stash. Can we get Frank Whaley to play Robert Hansen in a movie? I know there's that one Frozen Ground with John Cusack playing him. I used to have it, but I didn't think that movie was that good. Frank Whaley looks like a creep in this, and his range goes from this sort of Ned Flanders-y kind of like, well, you are my only guest this evening. He goes from that to kind of like a go find her, to like at the end where he's talking so fast out of rage that James Woods would tell him to slow down. I really like Frank Whaley in this. And Ethan Embry is one of his henchmen, I guess. But it all takes place at this small motel, which very common horror thriller movie setting. Which I would say that is one thing about this movie. It does have almost all the cliches. In fact, Kate Beckinsale and Luke Wilson are this married couple that is pretty much at the end of their marriage. They haven't signed the divorce papers, but it's been agreed upon. Which, these kind of movies, when they stop off at a place and they're in trouble, someone's after them and they can't get away, it's either newlyweds or this estranged, pretty much divorced couple. And it either drives them apart, either by death, usually what happens, or they're brought back together by making it through this experience. This one is the latter. It's this couple that you can tell they don't like each other. It alludes to that they lost a child, which it does expand upon that later on in the film. They have some car problems. They get help at a gas station. I mean, it's one of those cases like Hills Have Eyes. It's been in a ton of movies going as far back as at least Hills Have Eyes, where they stop off at a gas station. They either get directions or they get false help, and the gas station guy ends up being in on it. In this case, he doesn't really help their car. They get a couple miles away. The gas station's right next to the motel, so they walk back. Frank Whaley's the proprietor of the motel. He gives them a room. Of course, the motel is filthy and dirty and nasty. And Luke Wilson, well, first, and things just aren't that great. They already have to put up with each other. They're not getting along. And it all starts with this crazy knocking both at the door, the front door, and the door leading into the adjacent room. And from there, it just escalates. And it's mostly a cat and mouse movie. I mean, Luke Wilson decides he gets Frank Whaley to go talk to the guy next door to get him to cut the shit. So he figures to kill some time, try to relax and unwind. He goes through the labelless VHS tapes on the TV, and they're all snuff films. All these fixed angles, looking at these two guys in jumpsuits with these, I think they're like death masks, like in the shape of their face, but one kind of looks like fabric, one just kind of looks black. Torturing and killing and beating up various different guests in that same room. So you get the idea that this motel is like the base of operations for snuff films. They kill the guests, and they don't just save these tapes. I guess they make them for people. And one thing I do like about this movie is that it keeps it kind of grounded, because in movies like this in a post-Saw world, you'd figure everything would have been rigged. They would have, you would see Frank Whaley hitting a button and it would seal the windows, or it would turn on a gas, or kill the lights, or do something to fuck with them. It doesn't really do that. It really keeps it grounded in reality. The only far-fetched thing in it that might have been one of the aspects that took me out of the film years ago when I saw it is that there are these underground tunnels that go from the office to each room to the gas station, which is similar to the 86 slasher film Mountaintop Motel Massacre, which I have reviewed, I have ranted on it. I would say this is a much better film than that. That film is really goofy. But here, I mean, the tunnels are just big enough to crawl through. It's not crazy and elaborate. But yeah, it's mostly cat and mouse. I mean, anytime someone pulls in, it's like they got to try to get their attention. Are they in on it? Should we run after them? Should we get help? Anytime they go outside, there's always someone right there. And I thought it was a good way to build a suspense. I mean, the first time someone comes in, it's this trucker, and they're banging on the window to get his attention as he walks over. The two henchmen, I guess, are walking behind him. They're trying to get him to turn around. But then Frank Whaley pops up with a box full of tapes. He's one of their customers. So then later on, when an officer shows up, they're kind of standing back like, Kate Beckinsale is kind of like, let's try. Like, let's just try to get help. Luke Wilson is always the one saying, hold on a second, let's wait and see what happens. Because he even says, maybe he's like the truck driver. Maybe he's a customer. But it does have a nice build to it. The score, I didn't really notice anything score-wise, except for maybe the opening and end credits. But when they first get down into those tunnels, it was sort of like this quiet, sort of subtle kind of tribal beat, drum beat almost. I liked that. And you're kind of watching Frank Whaley's just stress kind of build up. He doesn't have a whole lot of screen time, which is one thing. It kind of a nitpick, but I do wish Frank Whaley kind of had more screen time. But and yeah, they're definitely going for more of the suspense thriller of the I can't really call it a torture porn film, even though it's kind of what they're doing. It's like the American Hostel, where they are torturing them, but they're making snuff films. That's kind of their, like, how they make money off of it. Only with our main characters, we don't get to see that. We only get to see the torture through, like, this veil, like, not directly, like, through the TV as Luke Wilson watches it. And as they slowly realize that this film was shot in that room. And it does have some of the cliched shots, like when Luke Wilson goes to look for the cameras, and there's that camera POV where it's like him coming closely in a frame as it's like an event. But there's really not a whole lot to say about it. As entertaining as I thought it was, with all the tropes, it does make it kind of generic, so there's not a whole lot to say about it. I was kind of surprised by the end. I mean, spoilers, but, you know, Luke Wilson is kind of stabbed out of nowhere, stabbed a bunch of times. She hides until dawn, which actually first, the cop shows up. They're debating on whether to, you know, get help. But then when the cop goes in their room, they're in the gas station. They made it through the tunnel. And the room's still messed up. The snuff film is still on the TV. So the cop comes out looking scared. He's holding one of the tapes. So they run out to get help. Car's already fucked with. And one of the guys comes up behind him as he looks under the hood and stabs him. And Frank Whaley comes out and it just starts taunting him. Like, oh, that's real great. You might as well just stuck the knife in him yourself. Which I love how he starts. Like, he's so Ned Flanders-y, like I said. Just like, yeah, well, you are my only guest tonight. That is very bizarre. And then, like, just as he tries to taunt people, like, with that kind of voice, he's really only serious with his two guys. Like, go down there and find him. Or, go find her. And then by the end, where he's just talking so fast out of anger. And again, he's just got, like, this crazy comb over, the glasses, the mustache, the denim jacket. It looks like 1978 serial killer. But yeah, he's awesome. And that's when they find that they can hide in the attic. They stage that it looked like she made it out through the bathroom window. But he gets stabbed a bunch of times. She gets down. She makes a run to her car, which I guess they fixed her car, or the car was fine to drive. They just couldn't risk it, and the guys were able to get it off the side of the road and bring it to, like, the gas station. And one guy's in, like, the sunroof trying to grab her, and she just drives through the hotel, which kills this guy and pins the other one against the wall. And then there's a fight with her and Frank Whaley, where he's shoving the camcorder in her face, like, I can't even talk as fast as he could. But I thought it was kind of funny. But when she shoots him, like, 3 times, he goes down. And then there's several shots, like, when she has to go in, get the phone cord out of his pocket, or walk by him again. The way it's shot, and just the way it looks, it's like, you know he's going to, like, grab her foot or something. But he never does. He never springs back to life for a jump scare. Luke Wilson, does survive, which... He's been stabbed a handful of times, and he's been laying face down. He was stabbed in the stomach a bunch of times. He's been laying outside face down for hours. I think he would have bled to death. Which, if they were newlyweds, he definitely would have been killed. But usually when it's an estranged couple, they both live. You can tell they're probably going to get back together. And then you just get this great shot from this wide shot of the hotel and just kind of slowly pans back, which I loved that shot. Very reminiscent of Psycho. Even the look of the hotel, like the office and just the way the building's shaped and just the design of it is very Psycho-esque. I I love horror and thriller movies with old rural motels and New England hotels. I love the look of New England hotels, old haunted New England hotels, and these kind of rural motels. But there are some kind of interesting, almost jump scares, like Kate Beckinsale's up against the bathroom window. It's nailed shut. She's trying to open it, and like a face comes up to the other side. And instead of showing us like the side view where she just backs up, the camera's like up close, and the jump scare is that she like lurches back. I thought that was kind of interesting. Just as she reaches for this gun that was hanging on the wall to shoot Frank Whaley, there's like this very quick cut because it's like down low looking up at him to make him look big and imposing. But it's like this quick cut of his face, like then like he reaches for his gun. It almost makes it look like he's gonna be like, it's got to be loaded like this one, but that's not the case. I really like the setting. I love the look of the motel. I like the idea of it being, these aren't just serial killers. They're making these torturous snuff films. It does have a 70s feel to it too because of just the decor and the look of the motel, how Frank Whaley looks and is dressed. But also because, there's like one cell phone as Kate Beckinsale's and it gets busted. But they still have like landlines and the TVs are old. It just has this very retro feel to it. So I love that. I do like the bits of the score that stuck out to me. Frank Whaley, I do think, is the acting gem of the whole film. It would be great to see him play like a Robert Hansen or even Gary Ridgway. Hansen, Ridgway, maybe even Pee Wee Gaskins. But definitely, he really stood out to me as like a Robert Hansen lookalike in this. And he's a great character actor, so I think he could do it. But yeah, he totally had the look and the charisma, and especially the scene where he's trying to stay calm, but you can tell he's an oddball when the officer is questioning him. He's just kind of, nope. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised by this film. There wasn't much that I remembered, but I went from not liking it at all and thinking it was very forgettable to actually being pleasantly surprised. I could say I like this film. Also, I like how, because this is still pretty much the height of Saw, that they didn't make it this totally rigged funhouse where they can control and manipulate everything within the rooms to really screw with them. And I would say they took a big risk on not having the torture up front, but having it all through these snuff films. Which, I guess on the DVD, one of the features is the films in their entirety. Also, there was a gimmick where you could call a toll-free number, and you could hear Frank Whaley's voice talking about like killer deals and how they're slashing prices of the hotel with screaming in the background. And I think that was in service until like 2015. There is a prequel to this, which I have not seen, but I heard it wasn't that good. Also, I guess one generic trope that it didn't have, was that we didn't have the unrelated kill in the very beginning. We didn't have the couple checking in, settling in, and then having them get killed before the credits and before we're introduced to our main characters. But yeah, I could say this took a lot of risks. It kind of fits into the torture porn genre, but in a very refined kind of way. Definitely more of like, definitely more of the thriller than your Saw, Hostel, Touristas, Captivity, straightforward torture porn film. But yeah, I was surprised by Vacancy. Actually, a pretty entertaining movie, very fast paced. But thank you for watching.